This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me tonight are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everybody.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
This week, we're doing a Shudder special, mainly because Rich and I are subscribers at the moment and decided to make the most of it. Also, coming out on Blu-ray, our first film tonight is Superhost, which is currently on Shudder as well. Then we're going to follow that up with PSYCHO GOREMAN and The Seed. Our short shot this week is Blink. It's a horror film, not exactly on Shudder, but, you know, keeping with the theme. And we're going to round up with our DTV Throwback, Frankenhooker. So without further ado, let's crack on. Our first film then is Superhost. Travel vloggers Teddy and Claire run a video channel where they rate private accommodations and their hosts. However, with their follower count dwindling, they decide to go a bit further with their most recent superhost, Rebecca. Steve, over to you.
Yeah, it's an interesting plot. Builds the tension quite well, but it's just a little bit slow for my liking. I thought it took far too long to get where it needed to be, and it's basically just a three-header, really, with Barbara Crampton showing up for about 2 minutes, and performances were okay. I like the makeup effects, you know, when they were used, but it's just, I don't know, the main character, you know, the Rebecca, just the performance was just a little bit too much in a way. You know, she starts off at 10 and goes higher, if you know what I mean. There's no slow build of her or anything like that. It's just over the top right from the start, really. But it was okay. It was generally a decent watch.
Yeah. I mostly agree with you on that one. I think this is probably one of the most linear horror films we've seen. You know, it's not so much sort of twists and turns. There's a little bit of a red herring sort of thrown in the middle. But yeah, it's about as straightforward from A to B as you can get, I think. Rich, what are your initial thoughts on this one?
It wasn't the film I thought it was going to be. I had a real feeling like it was going to be, because of the word host version, I guess, I thought it was like something viral, like a cabin fever, or something, and it's completely not that. It's as you were saying, you know, it's a very small cast. The thing that came to mind when I was watching it was Incarnation, because I was thinking that film has basically had exactly the same kind of setup, although it develops in a completely different way. But you've got two people going into a new house. There's a landlord who's a bit, you know, eccentric, let's say. In that case, it was Michael Madsen, and stuff happens, whatever. And I was just thinking that film didn't really work. You know, there was stuff that was wrong with it. And I think this film gets everything right with the same kind of setup. I thought I really liked the whole package, really. You know, the way it was filmed, the setup, the whole, when it starts out, you think it's going to be like a found footagey kind of thing, but that's just the initial set, because so it opens like a YouTube video, and they really do nail the whole, because I watch it because my son-in-law watches a lot of YouTube videos, so I watch it with him, and they just nail that kind of over enthusiastic, you know, obnoxious at times, quite often actually, sort of hosting style that they have, and so I thought those bits worked really well. And then when they cut away to the filmed part, you know, to the movie parts, it feels like a proper movie. So yeah, this was something that, like Halloween Resurrection, for example, couldn't get that right either. You know, the sort of moving between those different think that nothing quite felt right in these. This film, it's like it works well moving between the two things. Both feel quite authentic. One feels like a movie, one feels like real actual YouTube videos, which is good. And I like the way it developed. And yeah, I really liked the cast of unknowns, really, except for, like you say, Barbara Crampton, who's like the first lady of Shudder, basically, isn't she? She's like turning up. She turns up all over the place.
Yeah, and she was really good in this. As you said, limited role. I did like the sort of duality of the pair. Sort of their on-screen persona compared to their how they are in real life, as it were. As soon as the yell cut, you can see them sort of deflate a little bit. But, oh, thank God.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can kind of imagine that is actually what the YouTubers that we watch, or I've seen, that they probably do that. They're all like trying to hype themselves up and put on a show, and then it's like boom, and you feel
it's like us guys, isn't it? We spent 10 minutes just sort of chanting and everything before we start to get us in the mood. Go deep. No.
TV show, movies about TV shows do the same thing. It's like you got the TV presenter, hey, and then they go backstage and they're like,
start bitching about people and stuff.
Gary Shandling.
So this does manage a couple of decent sort of jump scares. There's one quite early on when they get to the house and waiting for their host to turn up. You get a nice sort of whip pan. I thought that was pretty cool. When Barbara Crampton first turns up, well, that was
really effective.
It was.
That was done well.
Very, very good. I just really enjoyed this. I think there could have been a bit more sinister goings on to build it up in the meantime, but at the same time, when you get to the end, you realize the clues were there all the time. The thing with the cats. The cat toys, the cat room, as it were, all that sort of stuff, and I thought it worked really well. I must admit, it's quite brief. I think it's 70 minutes.
It's about 85 minutes, including credits.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, but I thought it worked really well. It's not much more to say about it, but it's definitely worth checking out. Scores on the doors, guys. So, Steve,
I'll give it a 6.
And Rich,
I'm going to give it an 8. But one more comment I wanted to make was that Grace Phipps as Rebecca reminded me as like a cross between Brittany Murphy in Drive and Kathy Bates in She really had that whole, especially Brittany Murphy. It was just like, if you remember her, that performance, she was just wild and, really sort of quite eccentric. And I thought,
Are you talking about the Mark Dacascos one?
Yes.
I thought so. Just for a minute, though, thinking, I haven't seen the Nicholas, the other one. And so,
do you remember the performance?
But then I remember who you meant. Oh yes, the manic.
She's like really manic, and she's looking after the hotel. And stuff.
The manic pixie dream girl kind of.
Yeah.
But okay. I'm going to join you on an 8 for this one. There's not much fat on this at all. It's very brief. The characters are good, and it builds up to something pretty nasty. So yeah. Good. So that's 1 6 and 2 8 for Superhost. Go check it out. Due on Blu-ray very soon. Our next review is Psycho Goreman. 2 young kids, Mimi and Luke, unearth a gem which controls an evil monster looking to destroy the universe, and they use it to make them do their bidding. This is all over the place, Rich, this one. I know you like this, and I know a lot of people like this, and I kind of like it. But there were times during watching this I just zoned out. It's got a great start. It's very Addams Family, the 2 kids, the very Wednesday and Pudsley kind of thing. The way nothing seems to faze them. It's like, they play this game of crazy ball or whatever it is, and the loser has to be buried alive. And he's like, all right then, I'll just go dig my hole. She's like, what? It's very strange. Then it sort of veers into, I can only describe it as sort of Power Rangers. You know, it goes into Power Rangers territory before it goes into Guyver territory, and then a bit of sort of you know, there's a particular sort of Japanese subgenre of horror which uses the, you know, all these sort of prosthetics and things to this sort of degree, like Tokyo Gore Police, that sort of thing. So you know, there's that, and then towards the end it sort of goes into Rick and Morty territory. It veers and sort of careens all over the place, this one, and I can't believe really that this is the same guy who did The Void. You know, it seems very different sort of, in tone and everything to that film. So
yeah, I do want to see The Void. I haven't seen it yet.
So your thoughts on this, Rich?
Yeah, I think it's not I was looking forward to seeing it, and it wasn't quite everything I wanted it to be. I've seen it twice now, and I still think it doesn't quite gel in certain places. But I appreciate it for what it is, and I didn't pick up on sort of the same sort of references as you in terms of like thinking that it was a Power Rangers thing or anything. I was thinking like 1980s Masters of the Universe-ish kind of stuff, especially because they've got all the, you know, you got like
Rich, clearly you haven't watched enough Power Rangers.
I haven't. I've barely ever watched Power Rangers, to be honest.
God.
I did watch
wasted youth.
I watched a couple of the movies, like Turbo or Power Rangers Adventure, the DTV movie. I did buy that.
To be honest, to me, it kind of sounds a bit like Monster Squad.
There's definitely an element of that, yeah.
You know, where they find Frankenstein's monster and stuff like that.
There's a touch of that to it. But these, you know.
But this is like Terminator 2, you know, Edward Furlong's John Connor controlling the Terminator and getting him to do what
except Mimi is a complete sociopath, basically, you know, which is quite amusing. I must admit, you know, bits of this I did really like. I did notice the Guyver kick.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's in there. Yeah, the Guyver Scott Adkins kick. So,
well, the guy who did the action is Alex Chung, is a martial art guy. He's done done various things, but he started out with like a short called, I think it was called Contracts, and he made that into a feature as well, which I still haven't watched yet. But he's done a lot. He's a big stunt guy, big choreography sort of guy. I haven't seen much of his work, but it would explain why that's in there. But I've seen it twice. I didn't spot it, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. You know, some of the dialogue I think is great, especially when he's spouting all this stuff about what he's going to do, and the girl just sort of shuts him down with a pithy comment. I thought that was brilliant. I must admit there's a lot to like here, but I think I don't know, it just goes all over the place. The stuff with the dad at the end, that was pure Rick and Morty. That is, you know, the deadbeat dad kind of thing. I thought they nailed that really well.
Again,
brilliant.
I've never seen it, so
I
can't comment. But I did like all the dad stuff. I mean, there was one point it goes quite serious, and she's like going to kick him out, and you know, the wife's going to kick him out, and it seemed like it was getting quite serious there for a minute, but then it goes back to the playing it for sort of exaggeration. But I liked his cat. He was also very similar to the dad in the Halloween reboot.
All right.
If you remember him in that, he was a bit useless as well, and making jokes and stuff and not being great. But I thought the little girl, you know, she's the lead. She was really, you know, really good, really sold it. Very engaging. Not a nice character, obviously, but you know, not some. You don't. She's not bad enough that you really don't like her, but you know, but she's not nice to most people. Whatever. She gets
you're just sort of fascinated to see what she's going to do next, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I must admit, there's areas they could have gone with this, which they didn't. But I suppose for the most part, she is sort of like a well-adjusted kid at school, sort of thing. So it's not as if she's got a chip on her shoulder and it's going to drag him along to sort of Columbine the school or anything like that.
No.
There's sort of other things in mind.
I liked how PG could never remember her brother's name.
Yeah. It's Luke. You should know this by now.
I love the Hunky Boys stuff with PG. I don't like hunky boys, or do I? and then at the end, he's like, "Don't touch my hunky boys." Some of the, I mean, they clearly had a fairly low budget because lots of costumes, lots of prosthetics and things, but the mouths and stuff don't move. It's this
is the Power Rangers bit, basically.
Yeah.
So
and what was the
it's all done with gestures, sort of overblown gestures to sort of show what it is while they're sort of dubbed over the top.
Yeah, it was a Turbo Kid was another thing that came to mind.
I had to check. I'm thinking, was this the same guy who did Turbo Kid? But no, it's something completely different.
Yeah. No, and also he did, didn't he? Did he direct the Leprechaun movie, or was he just in Leprechaun Returns? Yeah, he directed Leprechaun Returns.
We liked that one, didn't we? We covered that on the show.
Yeah, he's quite
years ago. Because it's the only Leprechaun one I've actually seen. I did actually like.
He did a couple of others I haven't seen. Manborg, which I don't think is available over here.
Yeah.
I'm quite curious to see that one. Again, sort of leaning into sort of spoof sort of humour, I think, and Father's Day, which I think was one that Troma released.
Yeah,
so
I think we did. Yeah.
His career is kind of not his career, but his filmography, the kind of films he works on, is a bit unpredictable, and I quite like that. The Void seems to, I haven't seen it, but it seems like much more serious horror and stuff.
But still, lots of sort of creature effects and sort of prosthetics and things.
Yeah, I like the cast. I liked Psycho Goreman's look. His suit, the voice, two different things, because the voice was done by a different actor, but that really works, I think. The put upon friend who gets kind of turned into a giant brain.
That was a sad bit. I thought, well, they didn't even turn them back, just leave them.
But that's the kind of, it's got this really irreverent humor running all the way through it. I mean, it's very much a parody. It's not like heavy parody, but it's a parody. I think there's enough in it to make it a cult, favorite. I think it'll be one of those movies that people come back to, years. I think it'll build an audience and a profile. I mean, I know it's already got a profile, but I think other people will find it.
Yeah.
Go, what the hell is this?
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot to like in it. I was starting to wonder whether or not it was going to turn out all to be in their imagination or something, because the way the opening was filmed when they're playing Crazy Ball, you get like it's sort of the heightened reality is the slow-mo effects and all that sort of stuff, but then the camera sort of pulls back and you just see them playing in the mud. And you're thinking,
and they cut out all the music and stuff.
Just for a second, I think. Yeah, it's just an elaborate game that they, but or was it actually real? But I'm kind of glad they went sort of the real route rather than anything else. That'd have been a bit of a downer. But
Did you notice at the end credits they had one of the? You don't see it a lot anymore, but it's like they did it with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where they have a rap song which tells you the story of the movie.
No, I think it's so.
I thought that was a nice touch.
I did like the ending. I must admit, it's sort of the way it sort of finishes.
The ending or the epilogue?
The ending, where they're sitting down to dinner and the news is on in the background.
Yeah. So that's kind of more of the epilogue. I consider that because the credits start rolling over that scene. It's sort of Chris again. It's another sort of Rick and Morty style kind of thing, but also
very much sort of classic sort of Simpsons Treehouse of Horror kind of scenario, which I thought was very good. Yeah. Okay, scores on the doors, mate.
I'm going to give it a 7.
I am giving it a 6. So a 6 and a 7 for Psycho Goreman. It's currently on Shudder. Go check it out if you're a subscriber.
I think it's on Blu-ray as well. I'm not 100% sure.
I'm pretty sure there's a visual media version as well. Yeah, but it's on Shudder. So our next film is The Seed. 3 young women plan a weekend of booze, drugs, and a photo shoot at a remote desert summer house. However, after a spectacular meteor shower, the girls find a weird injured creature in their swimming pool. This is a new release on Shudder, Rich. This is a film I started out really liking, and then my sort of attention sort of dipped in the middle, and then I came back again for the end. I was back on board for like the last sort of 20 minutes or so. It's great to look at. You know, it's good cinematography, great location. That summer house is amazing. You know, there's a bit of bitchiness between the 3 girls as things sort of spiral out of control and they get on each other's nerves. I think that's when I started to zone out a bit. Some nice little bits of humor in there as well. Some very, very gooey effects as things develop. What are your thoughts on this?
It's funny we're coming at this after talking about
Psycho Goreman,
Superhost and Psycho Goreman.
Yeah.
Because this has kind of got elements of both.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, it's that isolated location cast thing, and then you've got the humor and also the kind of, you know, the visual, the prosthetic sort of creature effects kind of stuff, but also the fact that they don't really move very much. You know, they're a bit not as animated as you might hope they were. I mean, it's quite good that the creature in this is not CG.
Yes.
But at the same time, it just does kind of lay there, and you know, it's a bit
opens its mouth a lot.
Opens a little hand puppet.
You know, actually, do you know what it reminded me of? Have you seen Warlords of Atlantis? No, not Warlords of Atlantis. At the Earth's Core.
If I did, it was a very, very long time ago.
Yeah, of course it was. Yeah, the Doug McClure and Peter Cushing one. That's what they reminded me of. There's these sort of creatures that are like the overlords of this realm, and it's basically just their eyes changing color. You know, that's basically it. What they do, and they fly around a lot. But yeah, that's what I was reminding of watching this. It's like those creatures from Out the Earth's Core.
And the other thing with the Superhost connection is this is again got a YouTuber or a blogger or an influencer or whatever you want to term her, who's making videos and stuff there, and she's trying to upload them and stuff, and in the middle of nowhere. And I don't think this sort of develops that theme particularly well. I mean, that's kind of there, and again, it's pretty well represented, exaggerated. Everything's quite exaggerated in this.
It's just like, oh no, there's no internet.
This is more. It's not that feature is there more to highlight how connected they are to technology and how, you know,
exactly
how important the technology is for them, and you know, their sense of identity and whatever, because it's one of those movies that there's a group of friends where there's one that you don't understand why they're friends. It's kind of, they've put them there because the movie needs somebody a bit different, but they would never be friends in real life because the other one is just like, she doesn't have a phone, she doesn't use the internet or whatever, and they're like, what do they talk about?
And she's sort of like, you know, there's a bit where she's in the pool and the other two sort of like off sort of chatting by themselves sort of thing, and you can sort of see there's this sort of divide between them. You know, it's not a physical divide, but it's a metaphor.
No, yeah. I think the dynamics work. The performances are quite exaggerated, as I said. The whole thing is a play on, you know, fairly familiar kind of conventions of, you know, something from outer space happening. The whole sort of body horrorish, gooey, sticky kind of stuff. I was kind of expecting it to be a bit, again, don't want to sound detrimental. I was expecting something a bit more authentic or impressive looking, but it was quite static, and
it was like a sheet, wasn't it? Basically, it's like a big rubber sheet being pulled over them.
Yeah, and it was the visual effects weren't as impressive as not visual, special effects. The special effects were not as impressive or as creepy or as unsettling as I thought they might be. The film has a good, like you say, the cinematography in it. It looks really good. It's very colourful, emphasising the sort of the desert and the sunshine and the colourful personalities in their outfits and sunglasses and all that sort of stuff. But I think overall it didn't quite work for me. I think I think it's all right. It passes the time, but I wasn't as impressed as I hoped I would be.
Yeah, as I said, I mean, I thought the opening bit was great, establishing the characters on that. Then it's sort of like it really sort of dipped in the middle. Although when the gardener turned up, that kid, I thought he was really funny.
Well, then it goes into that's sort of the real Psycho Goremanish kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
It goes really into sort of humour in that bit.
The weird, fast sort of stuff.
Weird stuff, yeah.
But then it's and I thought it rallied pretty well for its ending as well. Which like ramped up the body horror for a start, and he had this great. There's a bit at the beginning where they sort of find, I don't know, Tinder or something, and there's his sort of mustachioed, sort of chunky guy. So he's basically the only eligible bachelor in the whole neighborhood, and we get a good callback to him at the end. I thought that was really good.
Chekhov's Tinder.
Yeah, a little bit, but yeah, it's not perfect by any means, but is a reasonable time waster, I think. I don't think you regret watching it.
The characters are a bit unappealing, which doesn't help.
No,
they're not very likable.
No,
even the one or two, there's like three of them, and there's two
called protagonists.
It's like, actually, no, they're not that. They're not. And then sort of out of nowhere, they start doing drugs, which just sort of really seemed really random, and also kind of sort of pushes you away, because you even think that one of the characters who's not like the others, she's like, dude, it was, and it's done so casually, and it doesn't impact anything. So you just kind of throw it in there, and you think,
I think it's just like, yeah, the models, of course, they're going to do drugs.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's kind of the attitude, I guess.
Yeah.
It's okay, I think. So, what are you going to score it, Rich?
Just a 6 on this one, I think.
Yeah, I'll join you on a 6 for this. 2 6s for The Seed. Just join Netflix, not for Netflix. Just join Shudder. Go check it out. Our short shot this week is Blink. A young woman awakes from a coma in a hospital, only to discover whatever injured her in the first place is back to finish the job. This is a very, very high quality short. The list of people working on this is huge. In fact, the film is purportedly 10 minutes long, but at least 2 minutes of that is just the credits. But this has a high gloss level. It looks brilliant. Steve, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it is. I really enjoyed this, actually. It was nice to see Sophie Turner in it. I don't know if you know her. She's been in Yellow Jackets recently, and the Book of Boba Fett. Right. But she is basically silent, just on the bed, kind of like what's the thingy? The one about the guy I've locked in syndrome. I can't remember the name of it now.
Diving Bell the Butterfly.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah. Communicating through blinking with the nurse in the room. All the while, you've got this creature in the shadows and stuff like that. And yeah, I thought it was really effective, especially when the bed moves towards the window, You know, when that's because that bit was actually that did ramp the tension up quite a lot, and you know, just nice little shots. You know, like when the nurse is killed and it's basically all done. You can see it in the character's reflection in the character's eye. I thought that was done really, really well. That was really effective, and yeah, overall it's just really decent, really high quality, and really enjoyable. I really enjoyed this one as a short, to be fair.
It has, as I said, you know, this is a top quality film, a lot of money, obviously made available to the people making this, and with good reason, Rich, I believe.
Yeah, it is a studio film. It's a Sony film, because the Sony Screen Gems have launched a new label called Screen Gems, which this is their first film, and the whole idea of Screen Gems is proof of concepts. So they are, you know, investing in short films to test a concept to see if it's worth fleshing out to a feature, and whether they're basing that on views and, you know, feedback that they're getting when they're marketing these films, you know, when they're putting them out there. I'm not sure, but I think it's very unusual. It's not an approach you generally see.
I suppose it's like that film, was it Don't Blink? No, not Don't Blink. Lights Out is what I'm thinking of. You know, that started out as a short and then got made into a full feature, didn't it?
Yeah, but I think in that case it was a film that was made outside the system. I think it was like an independently produced thing that was picked up and to be, you know, developed.
But it's that sort of model, I think, that they're looking at, isn't it? So
yeah, I've never come across this. I mean, I know studios have made short films many times, including, say, the Jurassic Park Bad Day at Black Rock, which was kind of a keep the audience interested while, you know, between movies kind of thing that they did there with the sequels. But they don't normally do proof of concepts, you know, in this sort of way, or, you know, they're usually spin-offs. Those sort of short films that they would do. Los Bandoleros for the one of the Fast and Furious movies, for example. So yeah, I thought this is really interesting. But in terms of quality, yes, there's you know, very long credit sequence, lots of people involved, but it's still very similar in many respects, and in terms of quality as well, to stuff that's made on a much lower budget. So although they do have a lot of stuff at their disposal here, I think that just highlights more how impressive it is, some of the other stuff that we see that doesn't have that kind of backing.
I'd cite Threshold, you know, for a similar sheen to this.
But I didn't like the creature, to be honest. I feel like I see a lot of that. You know, the whole sort of mysterious creature kind of thing. And it reminded me of some Dylan Vibart stuff I watched recently, for example. But I did, and you know, it was shot really well. The highlight is that centerpiece of the bed going up to the window. That is the best bit in the film. It's very well, you know, the whole thing's really well done. If it does get turned into a feature, I'll definitely watch it. And I'm really keen to see, you know, how often we're going to get these short films from Sony. That'd be really interesting to see.
And it would be interesting to see who they actually get to make them as well. You know, is it going to be people who, you know, people like Blake Ritter, for example, who are, you know, with a long history of doing shorts, or are they going to sort of like look at their sort of stable of actual directors? So that's a horrible phrase. Their stable of sort of feature directors.
Well, the writer director of this one is Spencer Cohen. He was one of the writers of Moonfall.
All right.
And you know, he's done a few other things. For example, he's a screenwriter on The Expendables 4. So he's primarily known as a screenwriter, but he did do one other short over 10 years ago, and I think a podcast episode or something. He's not a director, but he's probably somebody who's who's worked with Sony, and is trying to sort of take the next step to become a director. And they've teamed up with and I expect they'll probably take a similar approach. They'll look at they'll be working with people who they'll probably be people who they've not worked with, they've seen something they've done and they think, okay, let's develop something, but we don't want to throw X $1 million at you for the feature. So let's test the waters with something first. And because usually you find if you get a good, if a director can tell a really good horror story in 10 minutes or something, then they're usually a pretty good bet for trying to develop something into a feature. I mean, as we found with the guy, I can't remember the name of the director because I'm terrible like that, who did the film The Maiden, and then got hired by James Wan to do Conjuring sequel and things like that. So I think this is well worth say. I think it says it's like 10 minutes, but it is about 6 actually. But it's really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the the way it builds tension to, that sort of the questions with the the yes no answers, and how that sort of starts building the picture of what's going on.
Yeah,
I thought that was great. And then there's something in the room sort of thing. Yeah, I thought it was very solid. I kind of agree with you. At least it wasn't just like black smoke or something, which is the other thing that tends to get overused. And I think the logic starts breaking down towards the end as to what is actually going on. Sort of, is this creature trying to make it look like an accident? If so, then really he shouldn't have done what he did. Or is he just like hell bent on sort of killing this girl?
Yeah, there's a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot that's just not explained, and that is a bit frustrating to an extent. But that makes sense if you think of it that it is a proof of concept, so that they are just sort of you're seeing a scene from a story basically. You're not seeing the big. This isn't. You couldn't even look at this as like a prologue, really. I think because there's too much that happens in it. I think this is more like a midway through the movie kind of part. So maybe about halfway through, or
you don't want it to be your climax because everyone's seen it. I've seen this bit anyway. Okay, yeah, we don't score the short shots, but we do recommend them. We certainly recommend you check out this one. You will find a link in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our DTV throwback this week is Frankenhooker. After a freak lawnmower accident kills his fiancée, a medical student sets out to recreate his betrothed by building her a new body made of Manhattan street prostitutes and her severed head. I saw this not too long ago, a couple of years ago, when it was re-released as a Blu-ray, and I must admit I did enjoy it. It's a crazy film. It really is a crazy film, but has some nice sort of production values to it along the way, and just so many weird moments. Anytime anyone mentions this film, the first thing that comes into your head is, "Want a date? Got any money? Want a date?" Which I think is hilarious. Everyone knows what you're talking about when you say that. I talk about the production values. The bit where he sat with that huge drawing of like the human body, and he's sort of doing the sort of electrical map over the top of it. That was so detailed. It was really, really interesting. Just watching him sort of filling it in, doing all these sort of weird connections and things. But it was just a really decent piece of production design. Actually sort of going to the length of actually filling this in and making it look pretty authentic. I really, really like that. I'm sure you've seen this before, Rich. What do you think of this time around?
Well, this was like one of the films I saw in my formative years. I think I must have seen it way sooner than I should have, because it came out in 1990, and I've got a feeling I saw it around that time, but I would have only been 12. But so some of it might have gone way over my head or whatever. But no, I had the poster was really iconic, and I luckily had a copy. I can't believe I had it. I think unless I'm misremembering, but I can't really. I remember having it in my room. I can't remember if I was a kid with this poster on my bed.
How old would you have been in 1990?
In 1990, I would have been 12.
Jesus.
Yeah. So if I did see it then, I mean, even if I didn't, even if it was 2 years later, that's still pretty young. And I'm much more reserved. I wouldn't put it up now. I'm too reserved. I had one I'm sure I had Frankenhooker and Flesh Gordon too. Both great, really great posters. And but yeah, really not the sort of thing I would put up on my wall. But I mean, it was really memorable. It had a lot of memorable stuff in it. And seeing it again many years later now, it's 32 years since it came out. The stuff like oh yeah, I remember the lawnmower's just about to start, or the drill. He's gonna put the drill in his head and stuff. It's like it comes flooding back, and I think I noticed much more of the humor and stuff now. It's a very funny film. It's a very cleverly written film. I never thought about it at the time, but it's actually quite unusual. The majority, I say the majority, but a good proportion of the film is a guy just talking to himself. Basically, the whole performance is him pondering and talking to himself, or talking to heads or whatever it is. And it opens with this really weird shot of an eye, like this eye, like a brain with an eye. Yeah. And he's tinkering at the table.
Yeah, that's what it is. It turns out to be at the dinner table, because you expect him to be in his basement or something. And it's like, honey, can you pass the ketchup?
Yeah, can you pass the ketchup? And it's just like nobody's phased by it at all. It's like he's got all this technology and a brain with a twitching eye, and like nobody. So that's the tone of the movie established right there. And the title actually doesn't come up for quite a while, because the prologue's actually quite long. Yeah. So you launch straight into this thing. And I really thought that the lead actor, James Lawrence, he really reminded. I mean, I know he had sort of a look of a type of actor that was often cast in horror movies and movies in general around this time, but he really reminds me of one or two. I think there's like a guy who was in like one of the Friday the 13th or something, had a very similar look to him. Yeah, I thought he was really good. But the Patty Mullen as Elizabeth, I thought she did really well, because she has to play all these different facets, and I thought she pulled it all off when she comes to life, the whole Bride of Frankenstein scene, and she's sort of heading out there and she's contorting her face and everything. I thought she did fantastically. And then she has to bring it back in. And
the whole, the way she walks, the way she moves and everything is just pretty, you can imagine this is somebody who's been, stitched together from loads of different bits and bobs.
And all these memories that, so she's quoting stuff from the people that she's been constituted from. And she's just shouting these quotes out and stuff. It's all complete, absolute nonsense, of course. But, it works, and they sell it, and I think it is a good movie. I mean, it's a really crazy movie. Frank Henenlotter, some people might know his Basket Case trilogy. I came in on Basket Case. I don't think I've ever seen Basket Case 1, I'll be honest, because that was quite a few years before. There was like a big gap. Basket Case 2 came out in the sort of late 80s, I think, and then Basket Case 3 was after this, and that was crazy. That was and I really would like to revisit that, but this was the one that sort of really stenciled itself onto me when I was sort of growing. And it was, and not for the naked ladies aspect of it at all. That was actually quite, when I was watching it this time, I was like, oh, there's actually a lot more nudity and stuff in it than I actually even realized, even remember. You know, it's not that side of the stuff that I remember. It's the drilling the head and those sort of real sort of weird quirks about it that really stuck in. Oh, and the blowing up of the guinea pig and things like that.
The funniest scene in this is when he's chasing after her, when she's roaming the streets, yelling, "Want a date? Want a date? Got any money?" All this sort of stuff. And as you say, sort of repeating these other lines from the other prostitutes who she's been stitched together from. But then he turns up. He sort of jumps out of his car and just grabs random people, going, "You got to help me! You got to help me find my girlfriend." And it's like, what? There's no way on earth that anyone's going to know what you're talking about. It's just really funny. He's going, "I'm looking for this girl." And it's like, yeah, just random strangers. And then there's some Swedish guy. It just starts talking to him, but just sort of, he's going, "You're talking to me in Swedish in Times Square. Let's go away."
He's the guy. So it's a 1990 film because he's wearing a Batman t-shirt.
Indeed. Yeah. The very ending of this, I think, is a little bit problematic these days, because of the
sort of a trans
the trans element sort of comes in at the end, and it's played for laughs, and is like, oh my god, this is a man's worst nightmare kind of thing. It's a man trapped in a woman's body, and it's like, okay, yeah, that hasn't aged well. But other than that, it's a film of its time. I think we can let it go. But when watching that, I went, oh, a little bit.
But I see where you're coming from. I'd be interested to know if people do take offence at that, because it didn't, because I'm that wouldn't impact me, but I do see what you're saying there. And there was a scene earlier where there's a guy, he's clearly supposed to be a gay guy, and he's like wearing women's clothes and stuff, that scene I thought hadn't aged well.
Yeah,
because I was just him camping him up and stuff. He was just a guy in the that was all women in the prostitutes, all the women, but there was this one male prostitute. This is a woman, which again was very much something that they were doing at the time, and not we've seen other films do that, in a playing with that, but with a more LGBTQ kind of
slant to it,
so put things in better perspective. The what was the other thing I wanted to say? I liked Zorro. The pimp. The pimp, because I hadn't really noticed. He wasn't a character who stuck with me in the first one, but I thought he was really. I mean, he's an impressive looking guy. I haven't looked up his name or anything, but that this was the period where everyone, tough guys could have moustaches, and he's kind of a William Smith kind of looking guy, and he's got some really good scenes. And he's kind of the antagonist of the story, really, because everything's about the you got Franken, that's his last name. So it's the Frankenhooker. That's the joke. And I think Elizabeth's mother was Mrs. Shelley, I think, if I recall correctly. So what I love is it's very true to to Frankenstein and to the film versions of Frankenstein. There's little nods to both the book and the say Bride of Frankenstein and Boris Karloff, the platform shoes that she wears, and little things like that they've thrown in. There's clearly a lot of affection for the Frankenstein stories of the Frankenstein monster. But with this very unique, again, it's like Psycho Gorman. It's kind of parody, but it isn't. It's not going that Naked Gun kind of parody. It's just everything's really exaggerated. She's when she's roaming the streets and she picks up that guy, the little guy with the glasses who's just overexcited about it. It's like, oh, it's really silly. All these silly scenes and stuff. I think it's a lot of fun, and if people haven't seen it and they're open to that sort of, I wouldn't say trauma, because it's not really in that same sort of league.
Well,
but
it's pre-trauma, isn't it? Really, it's
not
interesting.
Pre-trauma, because trauma's been around since the 70s. But.
Really? Oh, combat shock and that, yeah. But I kind of avoided Henenlotter for a long time. Ever since seeing the trailer for Basket Case, I thought, no, it's just not for me. I did see Brain Damage when it came out on video, but the Basket Case ones I haven't seen at all.
After Basket Case, he made this, then Basket Case 3, and then didn't make another film for like 16 years.
Yeah,
and then he's done some documentaries and stuff, but not a lot. I don't know why. There's probably some reason, whatever. Brain Damage, I think, was one of the higher profile ones, but again, that was 1988. I don't think I ever saw that one. I've only seen the last one, I think. Yeah. Well, there's one called. There's a film called Chasing Banksy. Yeah. But I think that might have been a documentary or something. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't know what he was around in the 80s and early 90s, and then basically disappeared. I'm not sure. I'd be interested to, because I know he's done some interviews on documentaries and stuff. I think Sean Malloy was saying about he was interviewed on the Rewind This documentary and stuff. So I'd be interested to find out a bit more about him and maybe why he stopped, because he's a talented guy. He clearly had a fantastic imagination, and he would get involved all these great prosthetics people and stuff to sort of bring his bizarre visions to life. And so it's really, I think he's quite a unique director. I think Frankenhooker is very much a film that he made. I don't think anybody else could have potentially made the film in the same way. I just think he's got that very particular style to his work. If you've seen Basket Case 2, you'd probably but the Basket Case movies, you'll know where I'm coming from, because they just sort of stand alone. They stand out. I mean, I was watching other stuff at the time, like Maniac Cop 2, which is completely different, a different kettle of fish. But so this really stood up, and I'm glad I had a chance to revisit it. Yeah,
I must admit. I mean, the central character, I think she works really, really well in this. So there you go.
Oh, I'll tell you another bit I liked at the beginning, where the mother comes to see her son, and he like opens up and says, I'm just not, I'm losing the differentiation between good and bad and stuff. I'm becoming mad and psychotic, basically. I don't care about who lives or dies and all this sort of stuff. And she just says, would you like a sandwich? Yeah. And I was thinking there's a lot of truth in that scene.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because that's I've had conversations like that.
It's the open door policy, isn't it? My door's always open. As soon as you start, shut the door. people they just don't know how to deal with it, so therefore they just kind of change the subject. So I thought that was really that was quite a well, because it's like a lot of his scenes are monologues, and he's just giving monologues all the time. But in this case, he's doing it to his mother, and even and she doesn't receive it, and then so of course he's going to end up just talking to himself. So we don't score the throwbacks, but we do recommend them. This is currently on Shudder. It's also available on Arrow Blu-ray. I'm pretty sure that's where it came out, on Arrow.
On Shudder, it's in widescreen as well, which is great to see it in widescreen.
Yeah, it's a nice addition they got on there. So that's that, and that's the end of this week's show. So thanks to Steve and Rich for joining me this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Problems.
Awesome. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at the DTV Digest. Also check us out on the Short Shots, our sister show, where we look exclusively at short films. And that's got its own Twitter page as well, where Richard puts a new short up every evening around about 8 o'clock. So thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.